Chapter 13. An Appointment.
Venru stood in front of them, mystified by the silence. She'd finished her next set.
"Sorry,"
said Zack calmly.
"we were lost in thought. It happens sometimes when we talk of sequences past."
Do you know Nebulon?
Zentran asked Venru.
I don't think so, although the name is familiar. I'd never been to the Tarkton restaurant before I came here with Zack, and Nebulon wasn't around then. Flash confirmed that Nebulon had left the restaurant to Zack. Nobody's seen or heard from him since.
Zentran turned to Zack.
Has he not even contacted you?
No, he said he would when necessary. I have no idea when that's going to be.
Well, you're doing a pretty fine job here, Zack.
Said Fora.
It might never be necessary.
I must go, Zack.
Interposed Venru. She turned to Zentran and Fora.
It's been nice meeting you, but I have to get to the Occidon's bar. I'm due to play there shortly. We'll probably see each other again later.
Zack got up and gave her a hug.
Have a good time, sweet thing.
Zentran and Fora had gained more than just the events of Zack's story during the earlier thought transfer. Besides how to put up a mental screen, they'd also gained the know-how of moving exterior to their bodies. Zentran realized he'd always been slightly exterior to his body. It had seemed natural that way. For the first time, he consciously distanced himself from his body. It was easy, almost too easy. Cautiously, he changed his location in the surrounding space. Outside, holidaymakers bustled. At the far end of the walkway, he noticed 4 lookalikes, then found himself instantly in their midst. They didn't sense his presence, but feeling uneasy, he withdrew and found himself right up at the other end of the walkway. He'd moved through a building before he caught himself. Zack joined him. There was no mistaking Zack's presence. They sensed another being with them, and it wasn't Fora. It was Nebulon. Zack greeted him with the accord they'd developed, but an apprehension existed between Nebulon and Zentran. Not wanting to hinder communication between Nebulon and Zack, Zentran withdrew. Entering his body, he smiled at Fora. She'd also just returned, having tried out the new ability on her own. Her curiosity of Zack showed, and glancing at him, Zentran noticed that a body without its controlling life force in attendance left a vacant expression on its face. Awareness returned to Zack's eyes as he re-entered his body.
Nebulon has gone.
Zack informed them.
He requested that we meet him on Delta 5, but he can be quite cryptic. The meeting place on Delta 5 is where the stars and the moon are with music, in harmonious perception.
They sat quietly with their separate thoughts. The requested rendezvous wasn't a place any of them knew. As Zack had surmised, it was more likely some sort of clue to a locality. Perhaps Venru would know, as it had something to do with music.
That's not a lengthy trip,
Zentran considered.
but I'll have to return the freighter to Delta 4B first. We are due to leave next sequence.
He made a quick mental calculation.
If you take Nebulon's space cruiser and meet us on Delta 4B, we can take advantage of favorable positioning between Delta 5 and Delta 4B to make a one-sequence flight.
Zack turned and beckoned to Flash. Standing up, he placed his arm around Flash's shoulder and led him towards the owner's office.
I'm planning to go away with Venru for a while, so you're in charge now. You know the business better than I do, and with the length of time you've worked here, you've earned it.
At the door, he continued.
Go inside and sit at Nebulon's desk for a while. Get used to the idea.
Thanks, Zack.
Flash's face showed his gratitude. As Zack returned to the table, Zentran and Fora were just standing up.
Let's go and party!
Fora bent her knee slightly, while flippantly moving her shapely hips back and forth. Both men laughed. But Zentran knew she was covering up misgivings, perhaps to do with the trip. Whatever they were, she'd tell him when she was ready. Her newfound use of a mantle screen would stand her in good stead back at her council communications desk. Zack took the initiative.
Great idea, Fora. You and Zen deserve a celebration, and I'm in the mood for some fun. I've lost track of how many sun revolutions it's been since we are last all together. We can go to the Occident Spa and meet up with Venru. It can be quite festive there at this time of the sequence.
Venru's distinctive music greeted them. She smiled at Zack from the stage and nodded to Zentran and Fora as they entered. The room was filled with elegantly dressed men and women, but the calm power subliminally emanating from the three friends caused a stir of emotions amongst those present. Besides, what man would not turn his head at the sight of Fora? Even the grey council communicator's uniform couldn't conceal her form. Neither did she miss uncontrolled glances from ladies seeking out her escorts. Zack's flamboyant grey and gold suit and Zentran's impeccable starship captain's uniform captivated their attention. They stood at the bar, with Zack and Fora contributing most of the conversation. Zentran found himself intrigued once more by the seductive ambience of Venru's music. He felt Fora nestle up against him and placed his arms around her. Lost in mystical sounds, they moved their bodies in time to the rhythm. Venru joined them during her break.
How would you like to visit Delta 5?
Zack asked.
Delta 5? Oh yes! I lived there as a child and I've always wanted to go back.
Have you any idea where on Delta 5 the stars and the moon are with music, in harmonious perception?
Is that a place's name?
Reading the disappointment on her friends' faces, she frowned.
I'm sorry, I have no idea.
Never mind, we'll find it.
The four sat down at a table. Considering the planet's relative orbits for the trip again, Zentran left the others to talk about visiting places of interest, as carefree holidaymakers would. He realized how resilient people were, for even in this tragic sector of the universe, somehow joy could still be found.